A little update. This video, I kind of have a direction for it. I kind of see the finish line a little bit on this video, but we'll see if we get there or not. Kind of been going through a rough patch, mental health wise, and I finally had to look it up because, and I don't know if I've talked about this yet on the videos, but I had to look it up because I have never experienced this in like 40-ish years. And so I'm not high and I'm not low, and I'm surely not in that little alley in Chicago, as I often reference, the middle zone. Yeah, well, I'll just kind of tell you a little bit like what's going on. For one, the mind is turbocharged. The mind, it's craving, like a lot of times it's craving data. I mean, I just cannot feed it fast enough. And so it's kind of taken my learning by fire hose, as I've described it sometimes, to a whole new level. But there's also a conflict because my brain is busy processing other stuff, and so that usually doesn't happen at the same time. So it's like it's just kind of chewing on previous information. It's chewing on information that's coming in. It's running like crazy, and so they kind of fight for who gets fed first. Who gets all the energy, I guess. Overall, I feel stimulated. Like I would say I'm on a high, but it's not like a high at all. Like I feel high, but it's my mind. It's my body. My body's like kind of just humming. It's just almost feels like a tuning fork or something. It's just vibrating. And I've been having the shakes, and the doctor thought it was from meds. I don't think it's from meds. I think it's just from tripping. I'm tweaking. But I was trying to think if there's anything else for highs. I know outside of, well, I'll just say it like it is. Outside of what I'm desiring to learn about or desiring to process, I don't have much time for it. Those items are in competition with it. They're not appealing. They're not, and so like this is the second week now that I've missed church, and I don't miss church, but I can't do it for that. I can't listen. The last 2 or 3 times I went, I just remained seated while they were singing, during the praise and worship time. It was too, and I didn't sing along, not like in rebellion or nothing. It was too much. It was too much, between hearing it and then I can't memorize a song to save my life. And so I've always read the words. If the words disappear, I'm just singing Watermelon. But between trying to read it, trying to just like standing now is something that I think about. It's like that came to the front. Like just the idea of standing or walking is not I can't think of the word. What it, normally we just automatically do that. But that maybe that's one of those things I'm processing. I was telling you about in my head. That's just kind of so. It's too much. So I end up sitting there during the songs. I do read along, for the most part. I read along, and then there's times I pause, and I just listen to the congregation. I just listen to them, and then I almost kind of go deaf to that a little bit, like that phase out. Then I'll go back to, just watching the words, and almost like there's an inability to do. There's just too many things going on. The reading, the standing, the hearing, and then the singing. I don't know. Maybe there's more than 4 things, but so I last 2 or 3 times that I did go, I just sat there during that section, which then makes me feel a little self-conscious, and it makes me feel weird, like with my relationship with God, like, oh, am I too good? I can't stay. But anyway, that's all going on at the same time, and it's like, no, I'm struggling here, and then the pastor gets up, and he, I only say this because this is the way I feel. I don't normally feel this way, but he just gets up there and starts babbling on, and I have no idea what he's saying. There's too much going on. There's watching the movement, like just his body language. There's sounds in the congregation. There's just, and I seriously could not even begin to tell you at all what was said in probably the last 3 times that I went. And then the last part of it that I'm experiencing is, well, I don't know what I'm experiencing, so I'm just going to tell you what I'm experiencing. I have been in bed, I would say, safe to say, at least 21 hours a day. Yes, 21. And I'm going on week 3 or 4 of this every day. Every day. And I lay there, and I get up to pee or take my pills. I make my breakfast. I eat the same thing every single day. I don't know how many days I'm on now. 100? I don't know. At least in this go around. I don't know how many boxes that my wife has staged of malt meal or versions, chocolate and vanilla or chocolate and white at both houses, and that's all I eat. And I make a double batch, and I have I have it memorized. I don't have to look at the box, and I have a process. I leave the it's a 2/3 measuring cup, but I only fill it up halfway because there's like a line at a third. That's because I make 2 servings. And I just sit there. And if you looked at it, it looks dirty, and it's just because the stuff is clinging to it, even though I tap it out on the pan. I always use a larger spoon, and then my stainless steel pan, and I use the same one every day, and I don't wash them in the sense that you would think of washing them. So when I get done eating my malto meal, I put the pan in the sink, and I fill it up, and I eat out of the pan. I don't even use a bowl. I just eat out of the pan. So there's like a spoon, the pan. There's that measuring cup that she likes to put in the dishwasher, and then I got to dig it out. Usually still dirty because I do this every day. And then there is There is a measuring cup, and it takes a 1 3/4 of water, but I stick it right back in the cupboard or whatever after I use it, and then I I start it. You know, when I put the water, the pan's already on there, and I start it, and I take the thing of salt, and I just kind of guess, you know, and I put that in there, wipe it off on my pants. I grab the sugar out. I do a little more than they call for, I think. I'd have to look to see, but I do three of my spoons, you know, in there, and I put that away. And then the last thing I do is I go over and grab a stick of butter, and I like it a little stout, so I do, you know, a little over a tablespoon. I just stab into it with my spoon, the same spoon, and then I got to peel the paper off of the piece I did, and I throw it in the pan. And meanwhile, I've taken my multi-meal and I've filled up my measuring cup, and it's ready to go once the water starts boiling. It's fast. It's super fast. Like, I mean, there's not a whole lot of time messing around. But when I get done eating out of the pan, I stick it in the sink. I fill it up, and I put my spoon in there. And then the next day, or like 2 days this week, that's what I ate for 2 or 3 days this week. That's what I ate for supper. I did it over again. But, you know, my pan's full of water. I dump it. I got this little deal. I whoosh, whoosh a couple times. I rinse. I do it one more time. Rinse out the outside. Take it. Wipe my spoon a couple times. Take it over, you know, to my station, and make it. And she calls it my comfort food. You know, that she says it's my comfort food, and I was thinking back, you know, almost every time that I've been in the clink, the mental hospital, that's what I order for breakfast. There's I'm sure is cream of wheat, because I can almost taste it. It's white, and they put in way too much water, but you got to, when you're going to serve people that, you know, that far away from when you're going to cook it. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a rock. And I actually like the way they make it, because, you know, it's different. And I promise you, I'm the only one ordering that off the menu. Nobody's getting. But here I am every day getting my, I guess in this case, cream of wheat, you know, hot cereal. Another time is in the story that I just shared about that, you know, that suicide attempt around that time period with the car exhaust. I once again, oh gosh, 6 months or a year, probably, maybe longer. And it was primarily chocolate and that I ate. And I got really good at it because I could cook it in the microwave. Yes. Don't try this at home. It makes an absolute mess, but I got good at it, and I could cook it in the microwave. I knew, and it was an old radar range, putting out about however many nuclear whatevers. The one of the real ones. But I did. I knew the setting on there, and same deal. I had a process, and it was fast, and so that was always out of a bowl, which is funny. It's the same type of bowls that I prefer to eat out of. In plates, I prefer the Corel or whatever. And so I did it then. And then I was thinking back, well, that's what I used to eat when I was about 2, maybe 3, maybe older, you know, 2 something and on, when I lived with my grandpa and grandma. And, you know, I'm thinking, I have no memories of eating anything for breakfast besides cream of wheat. Yeah, hers was cream of wheat, I remember. And I want to say it was the red box, which I can't remember what the red box is. I don't think it's instant or whatever, but yeah. So it goes back to that age, you know. It's kind of so the other symptoms on the low side that I'm experiencing is the fact that how the hell can I just lay there? Okay. How is that? You can't do that, I promise you. Especially this many days in a row. You could not do it. Couldn't do it. And you surely wouldn't be able to sleep all night and sleep throughout the day while you're laying there, you know. And no, that's immediately where I return. As soon as I get done with this, even to upload the video, I won't do it from this spot. I'll do it from bed. I don't know, you know. And so there's something going on, and I don't know that I can tell you because I haven't been able to put my finger on it. I guess I'll try talking it out here and see if it makes any sense to me. But like my body doesn't work, but there's an argument to that because obviously I can get up to make, you know, the malt meal or whatever and take pills and stuff. So it does work. Okay, then it's like, I don't know. It's just like I can't tell it, but that's not true. I was going to say I can't tell it what to do, but that's not true either. Because obviously, if I have to pee, I probably am telling myself to get up, or if I finally get hungry, and you know, mainly the main reason I've been eating is just to take my pills because the one pill that I take twice a day, I have to have food in my stomach. And I've always been a really good pill, you know, taker. So, as weird as it sounds, it's like I don't want to tell it. Like a defiance. Or like, but it doesn't feel like defiance. Like there's nothing in my head that's saying, I don't want to because. I don't know. I would just say it's probably because I'm choosing not to. I don't know. It like I said, I've never experienced anything. I've been bedridden. I've been bedridden for, oh my goodness, months on end. And all that time, all you're doing is spending time trying to think about how to off yourself and how you suck as a father, you suck as a husband, you suck as a friend, you know, just whatever, you know, that's just, but I have not had that before with the brain, you know, this side. So and I don't know if I would say I'm experiencing joy. If it is, it's pretty minute. But I'm also happy. I'm at peace. I'm content, comfortable. I feel like I shouldn't be comfortable. I feel awkward, you know, like I don't know. Anyway, Wednesday I meet with the pill doctor. I'm sure she'll have great ideas. So I looked it up because I didn't know if, you know, my mind's already told you. Didn't you get it? Didn't you get it? So I looked it up. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? And so I'm having bipolar mixed episodes. And they actually call it like 3 different things. But if you were to put in mixed episodes, you would get it. And yeah, so apparently this is a deal, and you can experience both high and low at the same time, and it lists off some things, and I was reading, and I'm like, well, that's not really me, because it was like you're really sad, you're depressed, but you had energy. See, the energy comes from the high, and the other comes from the depression, and I'm like, well, that's not me. And what you can do, well, you don't get to, but you can pick what attributes you want from the mania, and you can pick, it doesn't matter. Well, you don't get to pick, but you can have, you know. And if you have them from both areas, it's a mixed episode, which apparently is pretty, well, and I would agree, is a very dangerous place to be. Mine is not, and I'll tell you why. But so I don't know if the audience here knew this, but most suicides do not happen when you're bottomed out. Never did I get out of bed, from being bedridden, just riddled with depression, to go commit suicide. You know why? You don't have the energy. So the number one concern for people who treat this is that spot when you're in a depression and they're treating you and bringing you out, that when you're still clinging, you still got that depression in you, but now you've got some energy. That's where you do the number. That's where that happens, the suicide. Never in the bottom. You just don't have it. So in this case, you could see where it'd be dangerous. If I was that first example where they had, what was it? Mind is going, they have energy, but they have suicidal thoughts and depression. Well, that means they have the energy to go off themselves. They've got all the ingredients. In my case, I don't have the ingredients because I'm not even sad. I'm not depressed. I'm not suicidal. But I still fit, I guess, the criteria of that. So I've been doing tons of learning. Like I said, a fire hose or whatever's larger than that, and I hope to get back on it when I get feeling good. But I'm trying to convert a truck to an electric vehicle, and so my progress has come to a complete standstill, obviously, because I'm in bed. But I've been doing a lot of research on it, and so interesting things. Electric vehicle, it doesn't take much of a stretch to go from electric vehicle or any vehicle to go to electronics and then go to computers. And then from computers to programming or software or communication. And so, yeah, I eventually I was learning about Canvas, which I was talking about very lightly, very, 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 very lightly. And just kind of keep drilling down on there. And then it took me over to kind of the software side a little bit. And gosh, that's pretty fascinating. And it took me to computers, the chips, okay, the business end, the stuff that we're going to be absolutely in a shortage if we're not already. That we will have a shortage. I don't think they can grow near fast enough. And so let's start with the chips. I found this very interesting, and I'm not going to go in the weeds, but I feel like I got to share this because it's crazy. So, computers work on zeros and ones. That's it, zeros and ones, which is on or off. That's it. And there's just strings of them. And we'll just kind of leave it at that, zeros and ones. Okay. Well, how do we do that? How do we process that? Well, how do we use a computer or use electronics to deal with that? Well, first of all, we converted into zeros and ones because that's the language. We had to speak the language of electronics, and we have a component that is probably about the size of a kernel of corn, maybe, and they're in everything, and they're transistors. Okay. And there's quite a few variations of these transistors to what they do, but they got three little legs on them, and basically you use one leg like to flick the switch, to either allow the signal to go through or not go through. So if the signal goes through, it's this. If it doesn't go through, it's this, that kind of thing. And then they've got some that are reverse of that, the exact opposite. And then they start doing some really crazy stuff where they start stacking, like, hey, what if we wanted this result? What combination can we do it? Like, what if we only want ones to make it through, but no zeros? What would we do? Or what if we want, anyway, they have mastered this. Well, here's the problem is if you have 1 or 2 or 10 or even 100 of these transistors, you're not going to be making much of a computer. You're not even going to be making whatever's that one is with the big blocky characters. You're not even, I can't think of what that is that everybody was playing. Minecraft. You're not even going to be making Minecraft, at that point. You need hundreds of thousands, and now we're in the millions. And it is an absolute fascinating process of how they get these onto these silicone wafers. It's absolutely. But the problem is, like anything in life, we needed more. And the problem we ran into is they're getting so small that it's getting harder and harder. The instruments in which to make the little transistors, if you will, it's getting hard. And in the beginning days, they used lenses, and we're talking about some of the finest lenses on the face of the earth. Finest lenses, we're no flaws, perfect, optics. And there's actually more than one. I think there's 6 or 7, but it comes through, and that allowed them to build it, put this on. Well, they ran into a problem once they got to around, I don't remember what the unit of measurement is. I mean, they're like under a human hair kind of thing. They're little. They were trying to figure out how to solve it, and it was just fascinating. The long of the short is, it took people from all over the world, doing their individual part for something else. We needed a need. And so, like, there was this place, they had to switch to mirrors, okay, instead of lenses. So they had to switch to mirrors. And they also had to switch to a different light. Instead of the whatever spectrum of laser, then they had to go to, I believe, ultraviolet light, which just changed all the rules. Just rocked the world. Impossible. Can't be done. But it's so crazy because all over the world, everyone was working with their part, and and then eventually they started coming together in like competitions. Anyway, we got past the hurdle, and so we now have. We now can hit the next level of, I believe it's Moore's law, which basically I think says every year or we double. So back to those transistors, every year we're going to put twice as many, on. So that's enough of that. I did do some reading. I stumbled upon it. You got to have the keywords. Learning on the internet is hard. Because you have to be able to ask the right questions. Yeah. And then the whole time the doggone thing's trying to lead you astray, But the other day when I was talking about that we need to have, the liar video. I'm a liar, you're a liar. And I was saying, hey, computers, my mind said computers needed to follow humans. Like we're smarter. They are. I don't know if we have a product out. I don't know if it's mainstream, but yes, we're getting past ones and zeros into more than that, which then should require, different operating systems and different languages, and there's going to be a lot to. It's going to be quite a shift. So there is movement in that direction. So anyway, I wanted to talk about a guy that I ran. Well, he's dead. I didn't run into him, but there's this guy, Terry Davis. Terry Davis, okay, and I don't know how I came across him. Probably because he's operating systems and stuff like that. I'm looking through, but Terry Davis was an interesting cat. He had schizophrenia, something fierce, like bad. And the really cool thing about Terry's story is Terry might be the best recorded documentation that we have on somebody with schizophrenia. Now, out of fairness, like I said in one of my videos, we are all different. Okay, just because Terry's got schizophrenia that way, which he was bad, there might be someone else with schizophrenia and it's going to be a little bit different. Okay, but at least we have documentation so that we can do some doggone learning, you know, some research on what he did. Well, he was a doggone genius. He was doing good pretty much through his life. I can't remember the thing that kind of tripped him off, but schizophrenia a lot of times happens later in life. I want to say in your 20s or early 30s in there. But he had 1 or 2 master's degrees, and anyway, and believed in God, you know. And his dad was a smart person too. They didn't say much about his mom because I got on a little bunny trail and really was fascinated by this guy. But I mean, he must have made hundreds, if not thousands of videos, you know. And one of his biggest feats that he did is I won't even say this right, but he didn't create the computer, okay, that he was using, but he created every other part of it, like the programming language and just all the, like every single level, he did it. And he was inspired or told by God to do this, and God told him a couple of the parameters. I don't know, there could be worse things. And so he ended up doing this, and he had blogs, and I'm just looking at some of this stuff that he was doing back there, and it was way before we were just really internet friendly, you know, at this point. But he was in like chat groups and posting videos and everything else. He named his operating system Temple OS, and it's I couldn't hardly find a bad comment about Terry's system they designed. And you could tell which guys, you know, program for a living and stuff like that. And it was like, they're like, man, hats off to you to do this, and you just completely skip this step, you know, and on and on. And I don't think it'll become mainstream, but there's nothing to say that parts of it won't be used, you know, for if it can be adapted or at least change the way of thinking for a particular area. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating. He had a hard time staying on his meds, and he was living at home with his mom and dad. You know, here's a guy with 2 master's degree. I can't remember who he worked for. Was it IBM? I don't know. He was smart. Like, he was smart until the illness kind of just took traction and won. But one of the things that's interesting, you know, we hear these different sayings and stuff, and you know, maybe we don't know the origin. Well, there's a saying, and I've actually heard it, and you know, I don't know if it's the young people that use it more, but it basically refers to cops or law enforcement or anything like that as glowies, because, and there's video of him talking about this, but he, you know, because he was paranoid, and he would talk about them. They glow. He could see them glowing, And so then he ended up glowies is what it was. But anyway, he was living with mom and dad and wouldn't take his pills. And eventually, dad kicked him out, just couldn't have it. And he lived on the streets, still uploading videos, going to libraries to use their internet, and still struggling like always. And I don't know how many years he was out on the streets, but eventually he got hit by a train and died. And so that's kind of Terry Davis's, so that's a little tribute to Terry, struggling in this world with mental health. And the last video I talked about, well, I think I probably referred to her as my girlfriend, but we were actually engaged. I had bought her a crazy nice ring, like it was ridiculous nice, like what real men, like grown-ups, would buy. and I also kind of mentioned, my ex-wife, in that deal. And I don't think I mentioned, my wife, my current wife. And I was, as I got to see my wife come visit me, because I'm at her other house. I've been here for whatever it's been, 3 or 4 weeks now. And she comes on the weekend and then works remote a day or two, and then goes back to our other house in our other state or whatever. And I don't want to begin to say I understand what it's like to be in their shoes, because I don't. I don't know what those. I don't know what I could guess. What feelings and what thoughts and. But I don't know. I would say, I feel pretty confident saying this. It's got to be as hard, if not more harder, for them than it is for me. Because you know what's not being expressed by me to her. Love. I don't know if I think I touched her shoulder or something once or something while she was here. It doesn't exist in me. And to be quite honest, I would say the majority of the time when I'm in this, these states, I don't want it. There's a few, but by and large, I don't want it. So it's funny when you maybe see a tabloid article, if somebody's saying a loveless marriage or whatever, and it's like, I don't know. I don't think that's at the same level. I don't. In some ways, probably most ways, they kind of end up being your caregiver and provider and whatever you want, house cleaner. I haven't gone to a store in months. I don't think. I don't want to be a liar, but it feels like it's been months. I don't recall, especially grocery shopping. I would say I haven't been into our local Fairway in a year, but this is this year, but we just started. But I would say it was warm out the last time I was at that store, and I don't go to Walmart, and she picks up all my prescriptions and brings them home, and she doesn't monitor them or anything like that, but she gets them for me, picks them up, does the calls, does that, and otherwise I don't know that it would happen. I don't know if I could pull it together to do it. That's just being real honest and real, I guess. It's not a real fair position to be in. It's definitely not what maybe somebody would sign up for. But it gets worse. It gets worse. I don't know if this ever happens in the depression side, but it definitely happens on the high side, which is I'm flying, like more than I am now. This is a very unique, probably a once in my lifetime opportunity that I'll be able to ever sit down and do something like this for documentation. Because if I'm flying, I'll just say it how it is. I don't have time for this shit. The same thing I told her that morning I left before the accident. There's nothing going to slow me down. I don't have time for it. And it's worse than that. It's not just not feeling love and, not having time for it. Of course, a lot of times the sexual appetite, if you will, increases during my highs. So what do right? Or is that just someone you've ignored, you haven't talked to, you haven't nothing, and now you're in a time where you I don't have time for you, but I want sex. Like I said, I think they get it worse than me. And depending on what I'm doing and where I'm at on the high, and I don't do this on purpose. It just, I don't know. It's like, oh, and wouldn't it be easy not to? Yes. Oh, gosh. When I hear crazy stuff like that, I'm like, you don't get it. And I'm not saying she does this. I'm just maybe counselor or whatever, oh, I didn't think of that. That's a great idea. But when I'm high, I know everything. I've never called or considered myself godlike, but I think to explain it, I would say I'm approaching it, Yeah. I'm definitely a consumer, and I'm just burning bridges left and right. So of course that means the things that she does do are not good enough, and could be done better. Or didn't you think about this? I'm being real open and real honest. This isn't extremely easy to do, I'll tell you that. But part of this is so people can understand just one of these illnesses a little better. So I'm grateful. I'm sorry. I've heard some people be like, oh, there'll be a special place in heaven for you. I don't know. I think it's all going to be gold plated. maybe they're gonna make it double gold plated. I don't know how do you make perfection better. Otherwise, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with them people. There'll be a place for the people. And maybe that's when I was doing her mom's funeral, and it really resonated with me. Her mom's long suffering with her back, jacked, and then just more than that, gonna go do this, but never did it, and missed opportunities. Just a life of long suffering. And maybe that's why I recognize that, because of the long suffering that I've experienced, but that I've definitely caused those around me. I'm just saying. Just a second. It hasn't gone unnoticed. Doesn't mean I'll ever understand. No, I'm not gonna try to even say. I'm not gonna. Nope. Can't comprehend. Okay, let's be done with that. Let's be done with that. So I ran across a guy on the internet because, like I said, I'm just trying to feed this fire hose of learning. And his first name was Blaze, but I can't even tell you how he spelt it, but it had an I in it or something. And it was super cool the way it was spelled, Blaze. No, I don't know how else you'd spell Blaze, but his last name was Pascal. If that rings a bell for you guys, Blaze Pascal. Or you may just know him as Pascal. And I don't know. You remember my deal with dates? Like, I suck at dates because I don't think it's important. But let's just say it was a long time ago. It was like in the 16s, mid 16s, I think. And a couple things I found interesting. His dad, which I think his dad was fairly smart, I think. His dad he wasn't I don't know if you'd call him a tax collector, but he was like a tax processor for sure, maybe a tax collector. Anyway, Blaze, Mr. Pascal, his mom died when he was like 3, and he had, I should have paid attention. I want to say 2 sisters, maybe. Anyway, when Blaze was getting a little older, I can't tell you what it is. They had libraries because they must have had some money, or at least educated people, so they had these libraries. But the father took all the books. He took all the books on math and I think philosophy and I don't know, a couple of these subjects, and he couldn't get them. He couldn't have access to them till he was like 15 or something. I can't remember what the reason the father is. I just think this is a funny story. I think it's funny. So Blaze just has what, novels or something, maybe nonfiction if they had that. I don't know. But that's it. He took all the meat and potatoes and hit them. And so that didn't stop Blaze at all. He got on the internet. No, just kidding. They didn't have the internet. He, I don't know how he did it, but he had, I don't know if it's true, but they showed him with paper and, must have had access to paper, writing and paper. And he started doing geometry, on his own. And then he ends up doing this circle, and he's talking about the equilateral triangle and all this and that. And then his father sees it. And the father ends up breaking his rule and gives his son Blaze these, I don't know if all of it, but he at least gave him the geometry, I think, one prematurely. Like, I don't know if it was age 10 or 12 or 8. It doesn't matter. It was before the rule. And I thought that was funny. And man, old Blaze, Pascal, he just absorbed it, went crazy with it, and questioned things and filled in the gaps. And yeah, it was interesting. And oh gosh, nobody believed him. I mean, he was coming. I believe he was the first one that did vacuum. I'd have to look some more, because that was kind of interesting. But what was interesting is, and I can't think of what it's called, but it's Blaise Pascal, and it's in regards to religion, okay? And I can't remember if it's called a paradox or what it's called, but I'll just tell you the gist of it, because I think fundamentally it's correct, you know? And so he basically, he says it in much more elegant words. I highly recommend, if you look up Wikipedia and you go to, Blaise, spelled with the I, Pascal, and then you go down to like, I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, first thing, he came up with like these formulas, or this thing, almost a game, if you will, about God and accepting Christianity. And the gist of it was, the very first rule of it was, you could basically not prove or disprove that God is real. And oh man, I'm going to mess this up. I'm just not remembering it all that way. Hopefully you guys are excited to just go do a little bit. In the end, the meat and potatoes is, how's this go? Since what God is promising is so grand and desirable, okay, versus the expenditures, like what you have, that and then he comes around to the other side, is basically the ways of this world, living in sin or whatever, are so small because they're just in this lifetime. But you lose, if you won't accept God, then boom, you're dead. You're according to this. But if you choose God, it's going to be beautiful forever. And he's like, the risk to reward, but he doesn't say it that way. But basically, choosing God was like a no-brainer, because the benefits outweighed the risk. The risk is, if he's not real, then you just die. You're not out of any loss. But if he was real and you chose him and start, he talks about it, he wants more than just, he kind of talks about, maybe, it's back then with mass or maybe holy water. I can't remember, but yeah, it was just an because a lot of times the more educated you are, the more, and I've seen this countless times, but the more educated you are, the more likely you are to dismiss God. You're too smart for it. You know better. You've got it all figured out, And that's a shame, because there's a lot of people that I've seen or known or loved through the years who are smart, who I question whether they're going where they're going. I can only present it. I can only testify to it. I can only, but in the end, it's a personal decision. Anyway, Blaze, Pascal, can't remember what it's called. It's on Wikipedia, plus other places. But yeah, he says it so much better. I think you could actually share it at church almost. I don't think it takes it to there. I don't know. Maybe it helped with the scientific-minded people. It's like, so. Very last thing, and I'll let you go. I had something cool happen today, and so I guess I did have joy. But my very first video I put up, my only video that I've done for the car conversion, I had a YouTuber comment, and it was only like 4 words or something, and my video sucks. I'll tell you that. It's very elementary, and it's very shaky, and it's, no cinematography going on there. But he left, it was kind of a nice little deal. It was like, yeah, good, I don't know, good job, attaboy, keep it up, or I don't know, you'd have to go scroll down and see the comment. But then I looked at who it was, I'm like, I know this guy. Well, I don't know, he don't know me, I don't really know him. But I watch his videos. Like, he's got, I think, 1,000 some videos out, in the EV conversion scene. And that made it feel a little bit better, because it was like, I don't know, it was like he's got street cred, it was kind of, it'd be like Pascal giving you an attaboy, if you're working on your whatever, you vacuum and all that. He's like, yeah, you're doing a good job. No, I don't know. Anyway, that's my only comment. It's been my only comment. And I do have these I would hope this would instigate some communication, some type of dialogue on the comments section. Doesn't have to. Don't feel obligated. I would much rather you just hopefully learn something about mental health. Sorry if I bored you with some of the fire hose stuff. I think we did get some stuff in there about mental health, and also some about loved ones in our lives. You've been a good audience, and I appreciate you following along. So, thank you.